Greetings from not quite as warm as it has been in our garden, but still nice. Swifts are back, very exciting, saw them earlier in the week. I thought I'd do a little video post about something I'm working on, which I thought might be quite interesting, and I'm going to be doing more videos like this about it. And it's not a great, huge reveal, but the Do lectures, which most of you will probably know about, really amazing event every year in West Wales. I did a lecture there in 2016. Definitely one of the things I've done in my life that sort of cracked open my consciousness a bit. Few things have done that, and it was when I was doing Unbound. I went there, and it was, it really changed me. I think it made me feel part of a community for the first time in a long time, because everybody involved just seemed to have no cynicism and be doing amazing stuff, and it was incredibly inspiring. And obviously I wrote a book for Miranda at the Do Book Company, Do Start, and I'm thrilled to say that they're doing a new radio station, and they've asked me to do some programs, and it's a really cool idea. I'm not going to tell you everything about it, because it maybe isn't my place to. Only that I'm going to be doing a series on adventure, and sort of loosely tied to my book, The Idle Traveller, which I did a long time ago now, but that was when I sort of discovered in my own mind a new way of living. And I've talked about that in many other places, and definitely worth picking up the book if you're interested in that. But essentially, what I discovered was that travel isn't really about geographical location, it's about the way you see the world. And I discovered on that trip that by going slowly, everything seemed to open up. And I explored that more later in another book, Driving Across England in a Milk Float, which on the face of it is a very silly, stupid idea, because it is. But again, it was incredibly profound, because we went so slowly. At the time, I felt almost like I'd given the landscape back its sense of imagination, which puts me at great risk of ending up in Sude's corner. But I just felt like something interesting going on in the land that I was normally racing through, and that journey very slowly across the country, I don't know, just gave me a hint of something other. But I'm a very rational person, and I've been brought up in a very rational way, and I had, like most people, a sort of religious childhood in a loose way. In the UK, it was very much, you go for services at Christmas, you go to weddings and funerals, there was lots of hymns, but I sort of felt like I left that behind as I began to think for myself. I became super cynical and quite angry about organised religion when I sort of looked at the way it was being used. It always seemed to me to be quite far removed from the philosophy that religion is sort of said to stand for. I just sort of felt, when I came across it, it seemed to behave in a very sort of bureaucratic, inhuman way, and I hate bureaucracies. I've got this deep dislike for those structures, because I think they bring the worst out of people. But this isn't a rant against religion, but it's made me very skeptical about, the Swifts are back, amazing. It's made me very skeptical about spirituality in any sense, and yet, as I've approached my 50th birthday, which is in a month's time in June, or a few weeks time, and it's not just because of that, but in my life in the last 10-15 years, I've just become a lot more curious about the sort of thing that we often put in the bucket of the word spiritual. But I'm sort of defiantly anti-religious. And that wasn't really my intention for the series, to do something about that. But it seems to be heading that way, because the first interview I did was a storyteller called Martin Shaw. I'm not going to reveal too much about the interviews because they're coming up. I think they're being launched in June. But in that conversation, not religion specifically, but just this idea of there's another way of experiencing life beyond the rational, And I say in that interview that I feel like I'm sort of leaving rationality behind in a way, which is not to say that I don't have a deep love and need for rational foundation, or like the underpinning of my way of life. But there's something about that deep, rich, rational underpinning I feel I've got to in my brain that is allowing me to be a bit more curious about things that are less rational. And I have explored this in my books in all my life so far. So it's not completely out of the blue. I'm going on this journey of inquiry. Anyway, I'm finding it incredibly interesting. The programs, I've only recorded one. I've just set up another few at a festival in June. And I've reached out to some interesting people that I want to speak to, which I'm hoping to do in the next few weeks. And the first conversation with Martin is absolutely incredible. Like one of the best things I've ever done. One of the most fascinating conversations I've ever had. And I can't wait for the others. But what I've noticed is there's a huge amount of work and reading and ideas and thoughts that this sort of journey of recording these programs and exploring this subject of adventure in a very loose way, that it feels to me like it's heading in a kind of search for the sacred but not religious or something. Can't quite put my finger on it. It's sort of heading in that direction, and there's just so much to it that is not going to appear in the programs because they're an hour long, and show notes are amazing, but again, it's not the sort of in context. Oh God, hang on a minute, I've just got to shout at the dog. Winnie! Sorry, she's digging. You're not allowed to dig in the garden, beautiful. I'll show you Winnie briefly. There's Winnie. Can you see Winnie? I lost my train of thought now. Oh no, so basically there's a lot that I'm discovering and thinking about that I don't know, I just feel like it gives me an opportunity to share more ideas and more interesting things. So I thought what I'd do is, while I'm doing these programs, and there is a number that I'm doing, but they've suggested that if I wanted to do more I can, depending on how they go. And they're being so amazing and supportive about the whole idea that I feel like it could run and run. So I just thought I might do something like this. I might share some of the thoughts behind the process of doing it, the people I'm meeting, the conversations that I'm having that wouldn't be appropriate within the context of the program, but feel really meaningful and interesting anyway, that I thought I could share. And as you will have seen, if you follow me on Instagram, I've left Instagram because Mark Zuckerberg and Meta have stolen 7 of my books to build their AI machine, which they have said in their legal opinion, my individual books are worthless because individually they haven't had a big impact on the AI that they have built. And I just feel like I can't be as angry as I am about that and still use their products. So I've moved everything onto Substack, which is obviously where you're seeing this. So that's where I'm going to be posting the videos. I'm going to be posting them on Substack. I'm going to do it free for a while. And then at some point I might charge a few pounds a month to be able to see them. But it's a bit of an experiment, and I'm going to see where it goes. So yeah, I'll do the first one probably in a few days' time, before this time next week. But it's really exciting, and I'm really interested in Indigenous thinking, people like Owen Barfield. I'm interested in William Blake. I'm interested in this idea of nature is imagination, and I'm a huge fan of Ian McGilchrist, who I have contacted and who hasn't said no to being interviewed yet, which is a very exciting prospect for me to go and talk to him at some point. But he has this brilliant, amazing book called The Master and His Emissary, and another series of 2-volume book called The Matter with Things, which looks at the way the brain works. And he is like a deeply scientific, rigorous man, but he is also incredibly fascinated by this sort of world of the sacred, which seems to be coming back to us in some way, sort of in a sort of post-rational, I don't know if that's what I mean, but the emphasis, like we have all lost something. The world is going crazy. People call it the meta crisis, the interregnum. I've heard all these words to say that the world is changing, and we're in this kind of intermediate phase between the way things used to be and the way things are going to be, and we're in that liminal middle space. So I feel like this kind of idea, this work fits into that. But yeah, so if you know anybody who is interested in that kind of thing, or that you think I should meet and speak to, please let me know. Obviously it's about adventure, so travel is a theme. But yeah, anyone you just think is fascinating and interesting, drop it in the comments, because I would love to go and speak to anybody who's just thinking in these terms. And as I say, it's not anti-religious. I'm fascinated to talk to people for whom they found their sense of the sacred in a religion. I'm really open and interested in that. It doesn't feel like what I'm looking for. But the weird thing about the rationalities is I genuinely feel so solid overall in the way I see things. I'm completely relaxed about where I might end up. And I'm kind of excited about that. I'm excited about that. And I don't think I'm alone in feeling like there's more to life, and we've maybe closed ourselves off from something really important about being human. But at the same time, deeply suspicious of the way all the organizations, the bureaucracies have sprung up around that idea of the sacred and the spiritual. Because I find that sort of very off-putting. Anyway, I'm rambling now. But yeah, so this is the first one. I'm going to be doing them regularly, just to let you know. Some will be longer, some will be shorter. It'll just be the books I'm reading, the things I'm thinking about, the people I've come across. And it's going to be fun. Like, already I've discovered things and people that I didn't know about. And the beauty of doing something like this is people tend to say yes if you ask them nicely, and you are coming from a genuine place, and you're doing it for an organisation with the kind of deep, rich track record which the Do Lectures has, for deep, richly and deeply caring about the world and the way things are moving, and wanting to support people that want to do new and interesting things to make the world a better place. So it's a huge honour to be doing it under their umbrella. Anyway, I'll stop. But yeah, so share this with anyone you think might be interested. As I say, I'll try and do a video a week. And let's see where we go. Let's see where we end up. Maybe we'll never end up anywhere. We'll just keep moving. But it should be a fun process. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.